subscribe to the channel, and hear even more exciting stories. I called off my wedding while she was away with her ex. What happened next? Hey Reddit, I've never written anything like this before, but after the week I've had, I'm pretty sure no therapist could keep up with the emotional plot twists. Throw away for obvious reasons, and if you recognize yourself in this, hi, I hope you're happy with your choices. I'm 31M, supposed to be getting married next month. Or rather, was supposed to. My fiancée, Mia, 29F, and I met 3 years ago at a friend's board game night. One of those meet cuties you only see in Netflix rom-coms, except there were more snacks and fewer witty comebacks. She was all quick wit, big brown eyes, and the kind of laugh that makes everyone in the room look over. From the beginning, I felt lucky, maybe even a little out of my league. Our relationship moved fast. Dinners turned into weekend trips. Your place or mine? Became, let's move in together. And before I knew it, we were talking about color schemes and guest lists. It felt good, solid. Sure, there were little things I tried to ignore. Mia still talked to her ex. They shared a dog, which always struck me as an excuse. She never wanted to post about us on social media, and she sometimes got weirdly distant when wedding talk got serious. But I chalked it up to nerves, or just her being more private than I was. We had our share of fights. About money, about her job, lots of late nights, about her ex texting just to check in. I brushed it off, wanting to be the cool, trusting fiancé. Honestly, part of me thought, if I act secure, nothing bad can happen, right? Spoiler, that's not how it works. I never thought I'd be the guy writing this post, but here I am. Days after pulling the plug on my own wedding, my apartment half-packed, and my entire idea of love sitting in a recycling bin next to our RSVP cards. So, here's where everything started to unravel. Mia had been acting off for a couple of weeks, more distracted than usual, glued to her phone, dodging my questions about wedding details with vague, work is insane excuses. I told myself not to pry. Mature couples trust each other, right? Turns out, mature couples also occasionally get hit by metaphorical trucks driven by people they thought they knew. The real tipping point came on a Tuesday night, when Mia told me she needed a weekend away to clear her head before the final wedding sprint. She claimed she was going to a spa retreat with her college friend Lily. I wanted to believe her, so I did, until Saturday, when my phone buzzed with a screenshot from my best friend, Matt. The screenshot was from Instagram stories, a group photo, tagged at a beach resort 3 hours away. Mia, very much not at a spa, grinning next to her ex, Jake, with a drink in hand. Caption, best weekend with the real ones. I stared at the screen, rereading it a dozen times, waiting for the punchline or some innocent explanation to materialize. It didn't. My chest felt tight. I called Mia, straight to voicemail. Texted, hope you're okay. 1 checkmark. 2 hours. Nothing. By Sunday night, I was bouncing between fury and denial. I showed the screenshot to Matt, who looked like he wanted to set my phone on fire. Dude, I'm so sorry. You deserve better. That night, alone in our apartment, I kept scrolling through our old photos. Her hand in mine, smiling at my mom's birthday dinner, both of us in matching ugly Christmas sweaters. All those little memories felt suddenly counterfeit. I wanted to believe there was an explanation, that she just bumped into him by accident, that this wasn't what it looked like. But deep down I knew. The cracks I'd ignored weren't just cracks, they were the foundation failing. I wish I could say I stormed out, dumped all her stuff on the sidewalk, and immediately felt free. The reality was much messier. I spent most of that night pacing the apartment, rehearsing conversations with imaginary versions of Mia. One where she confessed everything and begged forgiveness. One where she claimed it was all a misunderstanding. One where she just laughed and told me I was overreacting. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. Every time my phone buzzed, I thought it might be her, finally ready to explain. She didn't call. She didn't text. Not even a hey, are you alive? After 3 days of silence. By the next morning, the sadness turned sour, and I cycled through the full 5 stages of heartbreak before breakfast. Denial. Maybe she really was just catching up with old friends. Anger. But why did she lie? Bargaining. Maybe if I hadn't pushed so hard about the wedding, she wouldn't have run off. Depression. I'm a joke. Acceptance. No, I deserve better than this. Matt, ever the best friend, came over with takeout and zero patience for my spiraling. Man, you can't fix this for her. If she wanted to be here, she would be. My mom called, voice gentle but worried, sensing something was wrong. I dodged her questions, unwilling to say it out loud. I think my fiancé is cheating on me, and she might not even bother to come home. The worst part was the shame. I kept replaying every moment I trusted Mia, every time I defended her friendship with Jake. I felt stupid and small, like the only person in the world who didn't see it coming. Still, as much as I wanted to curl up and disappear, there was a stubborn ember of anger starting to glow. I needed answers. Even if I already suspected what the truth would be. Fueled by a cocktail of dread and stubborn curiosity, I decided I couldn't just sit around and hope Mia would eventually wander in and offer me closure. So I started piecing together what I could. First, I scrolled back through old messages, hers and mine, looking for clues, or maybe just for signs that the person I loved was still in there somewhere. I texted Lily, the friend Mia claimed she was with. Hope you two had fun at the spa? I wrote, feigning casual. Her reply was instant. What spa? I've been at my parents' all week. Is everything okay? That was all the confirmation I needed. Mia had lied, straight to my face. The knot in my stomach tightened. Next, I messaged Mia's sister. She was vague, clearly uncomfortable, and told me Mia was taking some time for herself, and I should just trust her. Trust? I almost laughed. The only thing I could trust at this point was that I didn't know what was real anymore. I called Mia one last time, voicemail, again. Left a message that sounded calm on the outside, but was basically me barely holding it together. We need to talk. I know about the beach. Please just be honest. No answer. I scrolled through social media for more evidence. More photos from the beach, a few tagged with Jake's friends, but Mia conspicuously absent from captions. Like she wanted to erase the proof she was even there. That, in some twisted way, hurt the most. Not just the betrayal, but the cowardice. I even confronted Jake through DM, something I never thought I'd do. His response was classic non-answer. She needed a friend. Don't make this a big deal. Easy for him to say. It wasn't his life falling apart. After 2 days of obsessing, sleuthing, and replaying every conversation with Mia over the last year, I finally realized I didn't need more evidence. The only thing missing was her honesty, and if I had to beg for that, what was I even fighting for? Mia finally came home 3 days later, suitcase in hand, and the world's most practiced neutral face. For a split second, I wanted to believe nothing had changed. Maybe I could just let her explain, smooth it over, pretend the last week hadn't happened. But I'd rehearsed this confrontation too many times to back down now. She barely got through the door before I asked, "How was the spa?" Her face flickered, just for a second. It was fine. I just needed to clear my head. I held up my phone with the group photo. Must have been a really relaxing spa. Looks like the beach was nice. Silence. She didn't even bother denying it for long. Okay, I wasn't at a spa. I was with Jake and some friends. I needed to figure out what I wanted before the wedding. The honesty, if you can call it that, landed like a punch. Figure out what you wanted? So, lying to me was easier than just telling me you needed space. She started with apologies. I'm sorry, I know I should have told you. I just didn't want you to worry. I wasn't sure how I felt. About Jake, about us, about everything. Her eyes were glassy, but not really teary. She kept talking about feeling trapped, how the wedding was moving too fast, how she thought reconnecting with Jake would help her close that chapter. Maybe it was the exhaustion, or maybe I'd just finally run out of reasons to make excuses for her, but all I felt was cold clarity. You should have told me before you disappeared. Before I spent the weekend wondering if you were dead or just gone for good. Before I sent out invites and paid deposits and told my family you were just stressed. She didn't argue. She just stood there, small and quiet. For the first time, I realized she wasn't the villain. I'd just been the only one still pretending we were on the same team. After the confrontation, everything felt unreal. Mia crashed on the couch to talk in the morning, but there wasn't much left to say. I lay in bed, listening to the quiet hum of the city outside and the distant clatter of her unpacking in the living room. The apartment, once our safe space, suddenly felt like a hotel room. Sterile, temporary, somewhere you don't unpack your bags because you know you're leaving soon. Telling my family was brutal. I called my mom first, bracing myself for disappointment and worry. She didn't say, "I told you so," just listened while I stumbled through the facts. There were tears, a few angry words about Mia, but mostly gentle reminders that I deserved better. My dad offered to come help me move her stuff out and bring pizza, which in dad language is the ultimate sign of support. Canceling the wedding was a process I never thought I'd have to navigate. Phone calls to vendors, awkward emails to friends and family, uninviting people who'd already bought flights and outfits. The sympathy was overwhelming and embarrassing at the same time. Everyone wanted to know what happened. I kept it simple. We decided not to go through with it. People whispered, guessed, offered advice I didn't want to hear. Matt, my best friend, became my human shield, fielding texts and distracting me with late-night walks and too many bad movies. Mia moved her things out quietly a few days later. There were no more dramatic conversations, just the clinking of boxes and a brief, awkward goodbye at the door. "I'm sorry," she said one last time. I nodded, too tired to offer forgiveness or anger. She left, and I was alone, really alone, for the first time in years. The grief was strange, not just for Mia, but for the life I'd imagined, for the future that evaporated in a handful of days. In the quiet, I had to start rebuilding, piece by piece, from the ground up. After the shock faded, a strange kind of resolve set in. Maybe it was stubbornness, maybe self-preservation, but I realized I couldn't keep living in limbo. I needed to reclaim my space, my routine, hell, my sense of dignity. So I did what every newly single guy facing a mountain of wedding leftovers does. I started purging. I packed up Mia's things, boxed the decorations, and donated the bride and groom mugs to charity. I sincerely hope someone gets a laugh out of them. I emailed vendors, swallowed the lost deposits, and sent out a mass update. The wedding is off. Thanks for understanding. Hitting send on that email hurt, but it was also a relief. The avalanche of well-meaning responses was overwhelming. Sympathy, offers of drinks, or "let's catch up soon," and a surprising number of "you're better off, man." At first, I hated the attention. Eventually, I realized most people genuinely cared. I leaned hard on my support system. Matt all but moved in, distracting me with video games and takeout. My mom dropped off care packages with cryptic notes like, "New beginnings start with cookies." I started therapy, not because I thought I was broken, but because I needed help making sense of the mess. Most importantly, I set new boundaries. No more lurking on Mia's social media. No more late-night what-ifs. I went back to the gym, picked up old hobbies I'd dropped for a couple times, and took up running again. For the first time in a long time, I was doing things just for myself. Was I over her? Absolutely not. Was I moving forward anyway? Yeah, one awkward, painful, necessary step at a time. There's a weird freedom in rock bottom. You get to build from scratch, and this time, I promised myself, no one else would be holding the blueprint but me. The day that should have been my wedding was, hands down, the strangest of my life. I woke up before dawn. Out of habit, maybe, or maybe because part of me was bracing for some last-minute plot twist. Instead of a tuxedo and vows, I slipped on running shoes and jogged through empty streets, letting the early sun burn off the anxious energy. Every few hours, my phone buzzed with texts from people who'd marked the date on their calendars. "Thinking of you today, here if you want to talk, sending you love, man." Each message was like a small ache, but also a weird reminder that I hadn't disappeared. My mom called to say she was proud of me, which made me choke up more than I'd like to admit. Matt, ever the MVP, showed up with breakfast burritos and a bottle of decent bourbon. For celebration or commiseration, your call. I won't lie, there were moments when the weight of what-ifs nearly crushed me. I imagined the venue, the guests arriving, Mia in her dress. Except it wasn't real, not anymore. The sadness was sharp, but not paralyzing. More than anything, I felt relief, the kind you only get after making a hard choice you know was right, even if it sucked. In the afternoon, a few friends convinced me to come out for a hike, something I'd always loved but hadn't done in months. Standing at the top of a hill, wind in my face, I realized I could finally breathe. No more pretending. No more spinning stories for anyone else. Just me, figuring out what comes next. That night, instead of a first dance, we had pizza and stupid movies. There was laughter, real, ridiculous laughter, mixed with the bittersweet ache of what could have been. And for the first time in a while, I felt like myself again. Maybe not whole, not yet, but at least honest. And that felt like the best possible start. In the weeks after the non-wedding, my life slowly settled into something resembling normal. There were fewer awkward texts and pitying looks as time passed. Even the wedding gifts, half returned, half donated, became just a funny anecdote in the group chat. I rearranged the apartment, bought new sheets, even splurged on a ridiculous coffee maker, just to put my stamp on the space. Every small change felt like a step back toward myself. Therapy helped. At first, I thought I'd just rant about Mia, but soon I was talking about everything. Why I'd ignored the red flags, why I'd prioritized her comfort over my gut, why I let myself shrink to keep the peace. Piece by piece, I started to understand, not just what had happened, but why I let it happen. That was the hardest truth to swallow. Mia reached out once, a polite text wishing me well, and saying she hoped I'd find happiness. I stared at it for a long time before deleting it, realizing I didn't need closure from her. The story had ended, and for the first time, I wasn't trying to rewrite it. Friends rallied in unexpected ways. Old college buddies reconnected. My family drew closer. Even casual acquaintances reached out to grab a beer or check in. I rebuilt my social life, not as half of a couple, but as my own person. It was awkward at first, sure, but there was a kind of freedom in it too. Slowly, I stopped waking up with that ache in my chest. I started planning things just for me. Trips, hobbies, even a new puppy, not co-owned with an ex. Thank you very much. I felt lighter, clearer. I realized that the future I'd been mourning wasn't real, and the life in front of me, for all its uncertainty, was mine to shape. Letting go of Mia wasn't just about her. It was about letting go of the version of myself that was always waiting for someone else's permission to be happy. So, if you're still reading this, maybe standing in the ashes of your own broken plans. Here's what I've learned. Calling off a wedding felt like leaping off a cliff, but the ground was a lot closer than I feared. The pain was real, the humiliation was real, but so was the weird kind of freedom that came after. For the first time in years, my life is just mine. No more waiting for someone else to show up, or worrying if I'm enough. Turns out, enough was never the problem. The problem was trying to hold on to someone who wasn't really holding on to me. If you're facing betrayal or heartbreak, don't ignore the signs. Don't gaslight yourself into thinking things will magically fix themselves. Trust your gut, even when it hurts. There's no prize for ignoring red flags or sacrificing your needs for someone who doesn't respect you. I wish I'd listened to myself sooner, but I'm proud I finally did. I also learned that the people who stick around when things get ugly are worth their weight in gold. Lean on your friends, accept the awkward kindness, eat the pizza. Start over as many times as you need to. You're not defined by the person who leaves. You're defined by how you pick up the pieces and move forward. Life after calling off my wedding isn't perfect. There are still moments when I see a couple laughing in the park or find an old photo where the sadness hits hard. But now I know it passes. Each day, I'm more myself. Not someone's backup plan, not an accessory to someone else's indecision. Just me, with scars, but also with a future that's mine. If you're stuck in your own story, afraid to turn the page, here's your sign. You'll survive. You'll heal. And one day, you'll wake up grateful that you chose honesty over pretending. Not for anyone else, but for yourself. Thanks, Reddit. I never wanted to be here, but I'm glad I am. Finally free, finally moving forward.